If we're going to be exploring the idea of writing across the curriculum in this course, it's worthwhile taking a minute to think about the question, does writing matter? And it doesn't take much thought to come up with plenty of reasons why writing skills are important to our students. In our science classes, they need to communicate their findings in clear, concise, and accurate lab reports. In an online class, we expect students to speak intelligently to course concepts in online discussion forums. Research papers demand that our students support their claims in writing with information from reliable, credible sources that are well documented. And when they leave the halls of our classroom and enter the workforce, the resume will be a piece of writing that can make or break their careers, not to mention the day-to-day written communications that most professions require in one form or another. So I think we can all pretty much agree that learning to write matters. But what may be a little more up for debate is who is responsible for teaching our students to write. One common school of thought is that writing instruction falls solely on the shoulders of English instructors, and perhaps you've heard this sentiment expressed with statements like these. This report is full of typos. Didn't they teach them how to edit in 102? Why aren't my students citing their sources? I know they learned APA last semester. Fluff, fluff, fluff. There's no substance to this essay. And so on and so forth. And while English teachers obviously do play the largest role in teaching students to write, it's important to recognize that writing is a skill just like any other skill. It requires time to learn. Think of a child learning to draw, for example. First, they may learn to draw a rather messy circle. Later, they learn that they can add arms, legs, and a face to make a person. Maybe even some squiggles for hands and way too many fingers if it's anything like my kids. Later, as they practice more and recognize other people's drawings, their stickmen become more well-defined and uniform, and eventually they might learn to progress to true works of art. Okay, maybe I left out a few steps here, but you get the point. Another example can be found in weightlifting. Muscle is not built overnight. When you first decide to hit the gym, you may only be able to deadlift 100 pounds. With months of training and proper nutrition, you could progress to 200 pounds. And with years of dedication and direction, you might one day hit 400. A more academic example is math. Generally, once they've got the basic of numbers and counting down, students progress to arithmetic. 2 plus 2 equals 4, for example. From there, they'll eventually move on to algebra. To solve for x, in this case, they'll learn that they need to subtract 2 from both sides to discover that x equals 4, or equals 2. And then the problems get more complex. You've got to first get rid of the 2 from the left side, then divide by 2 to isolate the variable. You've got it down to x equals 14 divided by 2. That's 8, right? Wrong. You see, just because students may have learned arithmetic in the past doesn't mean they won't make mistakes with it when they are performing higher level algebra. You've probably heard the theory that it requires 10,000 hours of work, of practice, to truly become a master at something. While we don't expect our students to be master writers, it may be worth considering that they still enter our classes with much to learn, and that's okay. Think of it this way. English 102, the course at Delaware Tech meant to equip students with the skills necessary for college-level writing, meets for 3 hours per week. Let's take a very liberal assumption that students are also doing 6 hours of study, practice, and other homework outside of class. Multiply that by 15 weeks, and you've got only 135 hours of time spent learning to write, crammed into a relatively short period of time. By the time students leave English 102, they have certainly progressed as writers, but that doesn't mean they won't make mistakes, or that they don't still have much more to learn about writing. So yes, learning to write matters. We can all agree on that. But just like any other skill, learning takes time, it takes practice, and it usually involves making a lot of mistakes. And if you are tempted to think that this is a modern problem caused by texting or social media or poor K-12 instruction or even the types of students who happen to flock to your classes, It is worth noting that 50% of Harvard freshmen failed their entrance writing exam, and that was all the way back in 1874. So, if we can accept that college students have always struggled with writing, and that we need to give them time to practice, make mistakes, and grow, we've got to take another look at the question of who is responsible for teaching writing. Well, just like preventing forest fires, every instructor plays an important role in helping students become better writers. And that's exactly what we're going to explore in this course.